Every year, Americans throw away nearly 60 million tons of food. That's 120 billion pounds, enough to fill countless landfills and, shockingly, almost 40% of the entire U.S. food supply. If you break it down, that's about 325 pounds of food wasted per person, or the equivalent of every American tossing nearly 1,000 apples straight into the trash every day. But the story of food waste in America is about much more than just numbers. It's about the impact on our environment, our economy, and the millions of people who struggle with food insecurity every day. Let's start with the big picture. Globally, the world wastes about 2.5 billion tons of food each year. And if food waste were a country, it would be the third largest emitter of greenhouse gases, right behind China and the United States. In America, food is the single largest component in our landfills, making up 22% of municipal solid waste. And the value of all this wasted food equates to nearly $218 billion annually, or enough to provide 130 billion meals. Meanwhile, nearly 35 million Americans, including 10 million children, live with food insecurity, not knowing where their next meal will come from. But why do we waste so much food? Well, the reasons are complex. But among the biggest issues is our attitudes to food. More than 80% of Americans throw away perfectly good produce because they misunderstand terms like sell by, use by, or best before. But our culture of abundance also plays a role. Food in the US is relatively inexpensive and plentiful, which can lead to overbuying and undervaluing what we have. Impulse purchases, unrealistic meal planning, and a tendency to discard leftovers or food scraps all add up. But not all the fault lies with the consumer. And it's important to remember that waste happens at every stage of the supply chain. Households are responsible for 43% of food waste, while restaurants, grocery stores, and food service companies account for another 40%. Farms and manufacturers contribute the rest. In grocery stores, about 30% of food is thrown away, and U.S. retail generates around 16 billion pounds of food waste each year. Even on farms, crops are sometimes left unharvested because they don't meet appearance standards or there's no market for them. But aside from the sheer amount of waste, the environmental consequences associated with lost produce are staggering. When food rots in landfill, it produces methane, a greenhouse gas far more potent than carbon dioxide. In fact, food waste is responsible for 11% of the world's greenhouse gas emissions. The resources used to produce wasted food are also immense. 25% of the world's fresh water supply and 30% of agricultural land go toward food that's never eaten. There's also a significant economic cost. Americans spend over $408 billion each year on food that ends up in the trash. And the average family of 4 throws out $1,600 worth of produce annually. In restaurants, the industry spends an estimated $162 billion a year dealing with wasted food. And while all of this waste adds up, there's still hope. Across the country, states are taking action. California, Connecticut, Massachusetts, New York, Rhode Island, and Vermont have passed laws to limit food waste in landfills. Vermont's universal recycling law, for example, has led to a 40% increase in food donations. Cities like Los Angeles and Madison, Wisconsin, are creating composting programs and food waste task forces. On a national level, the USDA and EPA have set a goal to cut food waste in half by 2030. But what can you do to help? Start by understanding expiration labels. Most food is still safe to eat past the best-by date. Plan your meals, make thoughtful grocery lists, and embrace imperfect produce. Learn to compost, freeze leftovers, and donate unused food to local pantries. When eating out, order only what you can finish and take leftovers home. The EPA's food recovery hierarchy offers a roadmap. First, reduce the amount of food you buy and prepare. Next, feed hungry people and animals with what's left. Use food scraps for industrial purposes or composting before sending anything to landfill. Food waste in America is a massive challenge, but it's one we can tackle together. By making smarter choices at home, supporting local and national initiatives, and rethinking how we value food, we can reduce waste, save money, and help build a more sustainable future for everyone.